Now, this conservative instinct against revolutions and radicals and revolutionaries has been a historic concept for conservatives. I mean, going all the way back to the French Revolution, the great speeches and writings of Burke. Obviously, the American Revolution is an exception in a way. But today, there are many conservatives, including one I interviewed recently, Andrew Sullivan, and he says that conservatives need to make sure that they are themselves not becoming revolutionaries, and that he sees Trump and Trump voters and Trump himself as a sort of revolutionary populist, and that it's important that we remember what our instincts are. And I made the argument to him that, well, maybe things are so bad that you do need a bit of revolution. You do need to, for example, go through the FBI and try and replace the people, whatever, or go through all the institutions that have been captured. So there's an interesting debate, isn't there, between conservatives as to whether they should themselves be revolutionary or be reformers or radicals, or whether we should just let things pass, as it were.
Yeah, I don't know Andrew Sullivan. I've met him a couple of times. I think I remember meeting him, but I don't consider him a conservative at all. During the Obama years, he cheered on the Obama revolution. By the Obama revolution, I just don't mean moving the country to the left. I mean unleashing Lois Lerner and the IRS on people right before the 2012 campaign. I'm talking about Eric Holder, who was the first attorney general to be held in contempt for not turning over subpoenaed documents. And so in some ways, the Obama administration was a revolutionary. They were the first administration since the Nixon administration to use the institutions of power, the enforcement intelligence agencies, as for political purposes. And they knew all about it. And Barack Obama was president when the FBI and people were spying on Michael Flynn and interrogated him and said that he had done nothing wrong. And yet they pushed that and pushed that and pushed that. So and then, as I look at people on the left now, I think Andrew Sullivan should realize that the people who are the pillars of money and power and the use and abuse of that are on the left right now. I mean, Barack Obama he ventures out of his Kalorama or Martha's Vineyard or new Oahu mansion occasionally to lecture people on their illiberality, or Bill Gates does, who's the second richest man in the world. The Democratic Party has become a party of the very wealthy, powerful, who feel that because they're left-wing and they virtue signal their liberality, that gives them the ability to enjoy the wealth that they've accumulated and to use it in ways that the Republicans had never even dreamed of. So if Andrew Sullivan means, are there fringe groups on the right, Proud Boys and those? Yes, I suppose they are, but if in real numbers, there's two main differences. In real numbers, they're dwarfed by BLM and Antifa, but more importantly, the major institutions of power in the United States, social media, the regular media, the universities, corporations, professional sports, they have green-lighted the left-wing revolutionaries. They can freely use Facebook to plan to burn down a building. And the investigative institutions are all over the right. And the right, this right-wing fringe group is identified. I mean, when you have the Secretary of Defense and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs state that they're going through the ranks to audit to see if there's anybody that's full of white rage, when they have no documentation, they have no evidence that that's true. They didn't say, well, we're also simultaneously going to go through and see if the violence we've seen on the street with BLM and Antifa has permeated the military. They didn't say that. And they said it in a very strange way, because then they said they wanted the military to look like the United States, proportionally, I guess, representative. And I thought to myself, 75% of the dead in Afghanistan and 75 roughly in Iraq were white males. So according to your own logic, you're going after a rubric that you have smeared as potentially revolutionary, when you at the same time expect the lower middle classes to go into Iraq and inordinately join combat units and die at double their numbers in the population. And according to your own logic, they shouldn't do that. So there is no revolutionary movement on the right that I know of. I don't know anybody in the right who is who is saying right now, let us dismantle these institutions. Let's get rid of the filibuster. Let's get in a couple more states. Let's get rid of the electoral college. Let's have a national voting law to override the constitutional rights of states that set balloting protocols. Let's pack the court. When Trump was president, I didn't hear him say we could really solve this problem with 15 justices. And I don't remember Trump sicking the FBI on reporters, James O'Keefe, or I don't remember the FBI becoming the personal retrieval service of the president of the United States when his son loses his laptop or his daughter loses her diary. So the politicalization of our institutions took place under the left, and in terms of importance, that was much more dangerous than what Trump's tweets were, or what these crazy Proud Boys do, or the buffoons in the House chambers on January 6th. I think Sullivan knows that. I think he's transitioning back as a conservative voice. And a lot of our spokesmen go back and forth, and the elephant in the room is the figure of Donald Trump, because on the one hand, he was the most successful conservative president in 50 years. On the other hand, he completely rejected the bipartisan establishment, Republican and Democrat, partly because he was not a part of it, partly because they wanted no part of him, and partly because his personal comportment was at times crude and crass. And we'll see what happens if there is a subsequent figure that incorporates the Trump revolution, that is the appeal to the middle classes of all different backgrounds, but lacks or does not seem to be necessary to go onto Twitter or Facebook and to be gratuitously mean and so-called. That said, we'll see if that person also has that outsider status and fire in the belly to take on that system. That system has to be taken on. It's huge, the unelected.